All right, so welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Now, as some of you know already, this week's topic is head flicks and deception. So it's all about head movies. So I hope you brought some popcorn. And today's topic specifically is who watches mind movies. So last Saturday we discussed what mind movies are, what head flicks actually is. Just the incessant movie making in the head, continuous creation of various different selves, you can actually say. Various different ideas about oneself, about the world around us. The constant talking, the storyline that is going on. All the many images and perceptions, opinions, attitudes, viewpoints that we assume. You could say that this is like a head movie. And there's also various genres to these head movies, right? You have the horror movie type, like maybe a dreadful future that might happen to you. Something incredibly bad that could happen, like the state of worrying, or maybe even the state of hate or anger that arises, is pretty much like a horror movie. It burns, it feels really, really uncomfortable. If all of you probably know the state of fear, the state of worrying, the state of anxiety, you all know that, right? These emotional states, when they arise, they're very, very uncomfortable. So it's like thrillers, like horror movies. And then you have these movies which are dramas or happy, funny comedies, family movies. You have the X-rated movies. You have everything. Yes, and it constantly plays in our own heads, giving you images, soundtracks. Emotions are a bit like soundtracks, right? You might have an image in your mind, just a pure image. The image in itself is not that threatening, maybe, but if you add some soundtrack, like let's say a fearful, throbbing, emotional music in the background, together with that picture, then the whole picture, the whole mood around that picture changes. Then there might be that storyline, the narrator coming in also. Maybe it's just an image of a cute little puppy dog that you're holding in your head. And now you add that throbbing, fearful, suspenseful music of an emotion. It changes that picture. Maybe the picture now turns black and white. Now there is a storyline, and the dog was abandoned. Nobody cared for him. Okay, that's just a picture about the dog. Now let's say that is about yourself. Everybody hates me. And you have that all with this emotional, sad kind of background music that you feel vibrating in your whole body, like when you're in a cinema, right? You have these powerful speakers. When I was younger, we had an IMAX theater in Munich. I don't think they still have that. I think it's gone, but they had these absolutely mind-blowing sound systems. So they were testing it in front of every movie, this THX sound systems, and the whole theater was like vibrating. You could feel it in the seat everywhere. So in a similar way, when you have an emotion, you can feel the sound effects of these emotions. You can feel them in your whole body until the point where all hairs stand up on end. Your fear, your anxiety, your worries, sometimes they fill your entire being. They can be very noisy. Of course, happiness is the same thing, right? You might have really happy emotions, feeling like in love and so forth. And this emotional music is not just only felt in your body. I'm saying actually it's felt in your being. That means it oozes out of your pores. It makes your food taste better. It makes conversations deeper. It spills out into the world. So it's like the person outside of the cinema, of your head cinema,
They can hear the music throbbing inside, and they can tell whether you're currently watching an action flick or some horror movie. They might hear some screams, or they might hear laughter from within. And so we're all kind of like that. We're all having the ability to feel one another. That is something we can't hide. You can put on a professional face and pretend that everything is all right while you're breaking apart on the inside. But someone who actually knows you well, they feel that something's not right with you. So we are able to sense our friends and our enemies and our neutral people that we don't know around us. We can sense their emotional state. The more in tune you are with your own emotional states, the more you actually are aware of what's going inside of your body, the more you start to become aware of what's also going on within other people around you, and how you go into resonance with that, how you can't even help going into resonance with that. Like if you're surrounded by an angry person, the anger just spills over. It has a very strong effect. It starts to vibrate your own mental state. It starts to vibrate your own feeling state. And by that it has a direct effect on how your body, for example, how the cells reproduce and grow in your body and so forth. That's why it's so important to choose well who you're hanging out with. To make sure that you're surrounding yourself with quality company. Now, today, however, we're not going into the what is the head movie thing. We've covered that last time. If you have missed it, you can listen to it online. Today, I'm kind of more interested in, well, who watches those movies, right? You have your head theater, you have your cinema. Who's actually taking a seat? Who's actually paying the entry ticket and sits down there and watches the movie? Who is it that gets lost in the movie? I don't know if you actually did the exercise that I suggested last time. I'd be surprised if you actually did. Like watch a movie and try to stay mindful of your own body. Is there anyone that actually did that? You did? Awesome. What did you observe?
Yeah, you get very uncomfortable when you have to change positions.
Yes. Was it easy not to get lost in the movie?
The pain in the body overcame whatever was going on in the movie.
Okay, so make yourself comfortable the next time. Okay, maybe you just assume. Okay, you just cross your legs or stuff like this, right? You sat in a meditative posture?
No, I was comfortable in bed and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're naturally you're called back into your body because of the discomfort then. Well, try to watch a better movie then.
Okay.
If you're watching a really good movie, you get pulled in, you forget your body, right? And sometimes I have a feeling that's kind of why we actually also watch movies. We like to get lost in it because for a moment we forget our problems, we forget our body, we forget our pains, our past, our future. For a little while we can just kind of switch off. Right? You don't have to listen to the own narrative in your head. You go cinema and it's a different narrative. And you know it will not do you any harm. It's not like you're not really under threat. It's just a movie. There's a part of you that knows that, so you can enjoy it. The very first movie, there's a legend surrounding the very first movies by the Lumiere brothers. Actually, they were showing a train entering a train station. You can YouTube it. It's on YouTube, actually, the actual footage. You can see a train coming into a train station, and legend has it that as they were playing it in like a cinema room, like with a big screen, and they were projecting onto the screen, when the people saw the train coming in, even though it was black and white, and even though it moved unnaturally fast, people were all running to the back of the room because they thought a train would enter the room. Right? Now we know better. Okay? We know it's a cinema, it's a movie, nothing can happen. but still we get really involved in movies. And so the same happens to the one watching the movies in your own head. Let's say you complain about another person in your life. You don't like what they said. And so you start to form an opinion about them. You think something about them. You think about their qualities, for example. Well, it's generally kind of a bad person, and they're always looking grumpy like that. And they're also wearing the wrong shirts always. And today that person was really stinky. I don't like hanging out with him because A, B, and C, whatever. And you find all these reasons. You form a movie about this person. That person in reality is completely empty. There's nothing to that person. Unless we fill that person with our own perceptions and presumptions and ideas and our own projections. We even call it projections, like a movie projector. Because we're projecting what we hold inside of ourselves onto other people. And then we complain about it. And then we say things like, yeah, but it's really true, they are really bad. What would be maybe more accurate would be to say, but the way I really perceive them is in a bad way. I see them in a really bad light. Even more honest, we could say, I can't help but seeing them in a really bad light right now. Because I'm in a really angry mental state. And as long as your anger is looking at other people, it will see annoying people. If your anger is looking at yourself, you will appear annoying to yourself. If your anger is looking at your own thoughts, your thoughts will become annoying intruders. Damn it, there's some more thoughts. How do I get rid of them? You're looking through anger at thoughts. And that's what we very often miss in the beginning. We don't recognize that we're looking through a colored lens. There's a lens in front of the projector. And so the whole movie appears red, yellow, green. So you take out that filter. And so the way we do that is by first of all becoming aware that that's the very first step, that there's a voice in your head, let's say. Okay, that voice, that narrative, it forms, it builds stories. And just observe it doing that. There's no point in trying to get rid of the narrative or to change it in some way. I like you to consciously just maybe form a narrative about yourself or another person. Just try. You can consciously create an idea about yourself. For example, I'm Tobi. Like as Ajahn Sumedho suggests, for example, he says, I'm an unenlightened person that hopes to become enlightened in the future. Okay? Like let's say it's a very basic spiritual idea. And then you would suggest to say that to yourself over and over again, just seeing how that feels like, saying these words. Just seeing the impact that that has on yourself. Might be maybe something that's more close to you, like, I'm a failure. I've always been a failure. Or, I'm the best in this room. Whatever it is that comes into your mind that is believable, play with that first. I'm the best meditator in this room. I'm the worst meditator in this room. I'm the same as everyone else. Form yourself into different characters. Maybe you don't feel like a failure about yourself, but you could create that feeling by starting with a narrative like that. So observing our narratives is the very first step in seeing those mind movies. Then you can observe the pictures. Many narratives, they come together with pictures, images. Right? Like the way you see certain people that you like, how do they appear in your mind's eye? Very often they appear very radiant, with very happy faces, kind of like very nice. And the people we don't like, they appear in this kind of, at least this is for me the case, often in a very dark mood. The picture that I have of them is often very dark, and they don't look very good in my pictures. Yes, if it's someone I don't like. So notice the difference in pictures also that arise in your mind. Narrative and together with images that we hold. And then finally, the third element of a good movie is the emotional background music, the feeling tone that underlies the whole thing. So you become aware of these three elements: talking, imagining, and feeling. Okay? So we break it up a little bit, do it one by one. So I suggest you to really take your time with that. Maybe spend a week or a month just with the narrative, just becoming aware of the voice in your head talking. Now, what kind of things does it talk about? What's your preferred genre? Is it primarily complaining? Do you have a complaining voice? No, my knees hurt. When does he stop? When will this end? The meditation is way too long already. I'm too distracted. My wife is too noisy. My husband is too annoying. This kind of voice? Or do you have a predominantly happy voice? Like, oh, I'm so happy that I'm alive. I love my life. I'm so grateful that I have legs. I'm so grateful that I can meditate. I love the air. I love the ocean. I love seeing that. I love myself. I love my friends. Maybe you have a more positive kind of vibe to your voice. Look at your voice. What is it like? What's the average tone of your voice? And you'd be surprised just how repetitive it is. It's incredible. It says the same kind of things always, the whole day long. My voice, my personal voice, is kind of like it's constantly nagging me to be mindful. So it constantly says, Tobi, you've got to be more mindful. You just lost your mindfulness again. Come back. No, just let that go. Just let it go, Tobi. Okay, I'll let it go. Ooh, that's nice and empty. There's nothing going on. You're talking again. Come back, just let it go again. So my voice is constantly talking like that. So it's kind of nice in a way, because my voice is suicidal. It kills itself at least, which is great. Yes? So my voice is kind of encouraging itself to shut up. That's great. You want to have a voice like that. I'm happy to have a voice like that. And I have that because I spend a lot of time with good people who are good at their practice. It colors off. This is fortunate. That's why company is so important. Hanging out with people who embody what you're seeking. But then there's also these very negative elements to my voice, like complaining or painting a really horrible future, like what if this happens or what if that happens. It just pulls out of thin air, like scenarios that could happen. When I'm enjoying myself, I'm doing my meditation practice, the voice all of a sudden comes up and says like, uh-oh, you're enjoying yourself too much here. It just comes out of the blue with these kind of remarks. And then it's immediately followed by an image of me being punished in the future because I'm enjoying myself too much right now. And that is followed then by emotional background music. Da-da-da-da. And then I feel horrible sitting there in meditation, suddenly feeling horrible, not realizing that this is unnecessary and self-created. And it runs because there is no awareness at that moment. So, becoming aware again. There's that voice again. Jack Kornfield gives this little example of, he calls them the top 10 tunes. You can write down your top 10 tunes. What's your top 10 tunes in your head? Like head radio, right? Thich Nhat Hanh calls the voice in your head radio non-stop noise, or something like that. It's just non-stop noise. right? What kind of noise, though? It will determine how your overall feeling state is. If you have nice, happy music going on, great. You'll be predominantly more happy. If you have grateful thoughts, uplifting thoughts, skillful thoughts, you feel happy. If you have unskillful thoughts, angry thoughts, hateful thoughts, you'll feel predominantly more nasty. So here is a simple tool of how you can change and shift your emotional states by changing the narrative. The cool thing is, you can. You can assume the role of a director in the movie. You can say, that script really sucks. Let's change it. Let's make it an interesting story. That's your power. You don't have to just buy into the scripts that have been there from your past. They have been literally written by your past. We don't have to buy into them. That's freedom. You don't have to buy into the voices of your past. You're not really limited by them, actually. Unless you believe in them fully, unless you're not yet knowing that you're actually just watching a movie and that it's just a movie. And you can change the script. You can turn yourself from a failure into someone that's very kind just by changing your narrative. You can change yourself from a hopeless case into someone that has new and refreshed energy. A sense of purpose. I have a sense of purpose. My sense of purpose is to be kind or compassionate or whatever it is that's uplifting. Purpose that is not bound to the self is inspiring. Purpose that is about the community, not just me. I want a new car or something. It's something that this is connecting us. So you change your narrative like that. And if you change the narrative, you can start changing the way your images develop in your mind. You can change them too. You can tell the camera guy to get a little bit more to the left. And instead of catching a pile of dog poo, catch the flower that's right next to it. You can choose what kind of images you're holding in your head. That is also a choice. And if you can combine them with a nice narrative, good image, good narrative, you can really start shaping the way you experience yourself and life and people around you. It can be turned out to be a very, very skillful way of living. If it is based on qualities such as kindness, compassion, generosity, equanimity, wisdom, qualities that we all universally accept as wholesome qualities. Right? And finally, the emotional background music. That one is pervasive and is very difficult to actually turn around. Here we can use breathing meditation to turn it around. Once you get some grip on breathing meditation, you can get better with that. You can change your emotional state right away. But let's stop with the chapter of changing the narrative, changing the images, changing the emotional state. Let's do something a bit more direct. When you have some stability in your meditation practice, all you can do is look right through those states. And you can do that by understanding that you are the one, first of all, watching them. So let's say you're watching a narrative. Your head is talking, right? Now ask yourself, who listens? And that shifts your awareness from the content that you're listening to the one who is listening to the content. That's the difference. That creates space between you and the content. Since you are the one that's listening to a train of thought in your head, how can you be the thinker? But in fact, if you ask anyone in this room, if you didn't hear the talk, if you didn't hear what I just say, and I would ask you, well, who's thinking? You'd say, I am. And then I would ask you, well, who's listening to your voice in your head? You would again say, I am. Now, doesn't that feel kind of fishy, strange? Isn't that kind of strange? How can you think? How can you be the thinker while at the same time being the listener? How? Are there two of you? Now that's the very basic split in our personality. That's how we feel duality expressed in our mind. Here's me, there's my mind. I better get rid of my mind. Both is the mind. The one trying to get rid of the mind is the mind too. The proverbial dog biting its own tail. We get lost in these kind of little games in our head. We kind of fight ourselves. It's crazy if you see that from the outside, but that's what we do. We fight with ourselves. And it's not really even something substantial that we're fighting against. It's thoughts. It's thinking. It's just bubbles in our heads that have been conditioned from some past upbringing and stuff. It's just a recording. It's a broken recording. Have you ever heard of Don Quixote? He's fighting windmills. He's thinking that they're monsters. And he's like a hero. He goes off and he fights with those windmills. That's the image that's given for that. We're fighting illusions. Fighting with our own thoughts. It's thoughts fighting with thoughts. That is insanity. It's complete madness. Those who realize that madness, they're off on the spiritual path. And they're very sincere with it. Because they've been shocked by it. It's like, whoa, that's what's going on in my own head. Holy Mother of the Lord. That's crazy. How can that keep going on and on and on and on, day and night, without me realizing what's actually going on? I'm caught up and entangled within my own conditioning. So here the training is then to make it seen very, very clearly, and then make the seer seen. Ooh, I'm watching thoughts. Thought A, thought B, thought C. Who's watching thought A, thought B, and thought C? Can you become aware of that one? This is not an intellectual little exercise. This is not philosophy. You can do it right now and directly. Just recognize this element which sees right into the conditioned mind. It takes a bit of practice. For those of you who do already have some stability in their minds, that is very possible. And it is very liberating right away. Oh, these are just thoughts. And you can listen to your brain go like, I'm a failure, I can never do this, my future is going to be horrible, and you can listen to it, and it's kind of like, oh, it's not real. You relax about it. It's just talk. It's the same thing that when you are totally caught in a horror movie, and all of a sudden you recognize, oh, it's just a movie. Or someone waking you up from a nightmare. Hey, it's just a dream. Oh, thank God, it's just a dream. That is the same. It's that liberation. It's nothing. It's empty. There's nothing to it. And you can do precisely the same with the images that arise in your mind. Who is watching them? And the same with your emotions. Who is feeling them? The more you do that, you see they arise and pass from one and the same thing. And you get skilled at that. Then your thoughts, your emotions, and the images will be, as the Tibetans say, very, very apt, very nicely. They say, like snowflakes falling onto the ocean. They fall continuously, and as they hit, they just melt. As thoughts and emotions and whatever there is is hitting awareness, it just dissolves, it just melts. That's when you then understand more and more that you just need to be centered in emptiness, centered in aware, in knowing quality. Seeing whatever comes, something that comes, whatever goes is something that goes, not my business. It's not even touching me. That is freedom. You attain freedom from your own fabrications, concoctions in the mind. That is true freedom. And it's so much better than just constantly being caught up in nothing. I encourage you to watch. Take your days, if you remember, and watch. Look at your own mind. Watch it go, watch it talk. Can you see through it? And then can you see the one seeing through it? So, yeah, that's how you watch movies properly. You watch the watcher. This is the deepest form of watching. That I would call real introspection. That's what introspection is. Introspection doesn't mean like I'm closing my eyes and I'm having a look into this kind of ominous, hazy thing that I call mind. What am I looking at? Am I looking at my lungs right now? Is that an imagination? It's just confusion. That's just confusion. Looking within means looking at the looker. So being aware of the looker. Seeing the distance that it has to what it is seeing. The space in between. Okay, so that's all that comes to mind for today.